If you've ever been on one of the retailer websites and you're looking for a particular piece of gear, let's say a preamp for instance, maybe on Sweetwater or Vintage King, and you're reading through the description of the product, and you're seeing things like integrated circuit op amps or transformerless design or discrete op amp and vacuum tubes. All of this really technical jargon, and you have no idea what they are talking about. All you want to do is find the right preamp for your next project, right? So first, you need to understand what each of these are and how they process the sound. Let's start with transformers. A transformer is simply a box of circuitry that the signal, your track, runs through, and it then adds either coloration and warmth or tames the high frequencies and transients. To keep things simple, that's really all you need to understand. However, there are different types of transformers and each one does something a little bit different. You have steel, nickel, and iron transformers. These are the core materials that affect the transformer's performance on the character of the sound. Let's start with nickel. Nickel saturates the sound very easily, especially at higher levels, has very low distortion at normal signal levels, and has a much cleaner and transparent sound than steel or iron. So, if you're looking for a nice clean, crisp sound, you want a transformer with nickel materials. Of the three types of transformers, it is also the most expensive. Then you have steel transformers. Steel saturates more gradually than its cousin the nickel transformer and has higher distortion. But the distortion it produces is considered musical, so it can actually be useful to a sound, adding warmth and color. Then there's an iron transformer. Iron saturates quickly, especially on the lower frequencies. If you push or really drive a preamp with an iron transformer, you get rich, thick saturation on those low frequencies. And, because of the nature of the iron material, the transformer naturally compresses the sound, although not heavily. So if you're looking for maximum coloration and a nice thick-sounding bottom, iron is the way to go. Now, wasn't that easier than reading through an instruction manual or product description? Now, let's take a look at op amps. You may be surprised at how simple these little gadgets are to understand. First, there are two different types of op amps: discrete and integrated circuit op amps. Discrete op amps are made of individual components, such as transistors and resistors. All of these are connected by wires and sit on a circuit board. Integrated circuit op amps are one complete circuit fixed on a chip. A discrete op amp adds coloration to the sound, and an integrated circuit op amp is more clean and transparent. And keep this in mind. Discrete op amps are usually more expensive, and if you're thinking of building your own preamp, keep in mind that they are much bigger than integrated circuit preamps. Now, let's move on to tubes. Tubes add that warm, rich fine-pitch sound by producing harmonic distortion and compression to an audio signal. The distortion is just enough to still be musical and not detrimental to the sound. Tubes achieve this through what's called a nonlinear response, and we won't go too much into detail there as that would be a bit too technical for our discussion. Tubes also tame transients and high frequencies, taking away the harness they can cause and a natural-sounding saturation. Now, I'll hand it over to G Sharp, who has a few questions for you to see how closely you've been paying attention and wrap this all up for us.
All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that video. I know there's a lot of confusion out there about op amps and transformers, and you have nickel wound and steel wound and iron and discrete and all that other stuff, and it just gets so confusing. So I decided to go ahead and put this video together for you. Hope you got something out of it, but like my assistant Sean was saying, I do have a couple of questions for you to make sure you were paying attention during the video. Question number one: if you're working on a project and you're looking for that laid back kind of like, picture yourself in a smoky jazz lounge where everyone's just relaxing with a drink and having a cigar, and it's just that nice hazy, thick, warm feeling, and the band gets on the stage and they're playing this soft music, and it just has that vibe to it. And now you're going to record this to a track. What type of equipment are you going to use? Something with a discrete op amp? Are you going to use a transformer for your preamps that have steel, nickel, or iron? Remember the characteristics of each of those: nickel, steel, iron. Iron is giving you that nice thick bottom end. What was nickel giving you? What was steel giving you? What were the two types of op amps that are out there? You have discrete and you have integrated circuit. How do those two differ sonically? These are the things that you have to think of when you're working on a project. Another, for instance, you have a heavy metal rock band that's coming into the studio, and they go for it. The sound is just grungy, and it's thick, and it's meaty. Are you going to use a discrete op amp in your preamp, or are you going to use an integrated circuit op amp for your preamp choice? Are you going to use a transformerless preamp, or are you going to use an iron preamp? These are the things that you have to think about. This is what's going to help you to make the right choice when you're purchasing your equipment. Know what it is that you want to purchase. What does the project entail? What is the sound that you're going after? Don't just get on Sweetwater or Vintage King and order something because it's the latest and greatest product. You got to know that that latest and greatest product is exactly what you're looking for, and it's going to give you the sonic performance that you're looking for. These things are very important. This is where a lot of people make mistakes, and over the years I've seen it at least a dozen times. Fellow studio owners that I know and other folks that I know today that have home studios went out and bought this equipment because it's the latest and greatest thing that came out since your mother's chicken soup. And they start using it, and they're just like, this isn't what I was looking for. It's not the sound I was looking for. You know, the product description sounded really great and all this stuff that it had included in it. But the circuitry inside that piece of gear was never going to produce the sound that you were looking for. Now that you know the difference between discrete and integrated circuit, and you know the difference between nickel, steel, and iron, and you know exactly what a tube is going to do for you, what it's going to do sonically to the sound, now you know what to purchase. Now you won't waste your time having to rebox it and send it back to Sweetwater because you know what it is that you need. Until next time, G Sharp Jams out. Everybody have yourself a great rest of your day. Keep recording, keep creating, and I'll see you next time.